Thank you, Audrey, and hi everyone. Thank you for coming here tonight. I hope we did not rush your iftar today. Before we start, how many of you guys are interested in studying in the US? For a master's degree? Undergraduate? Anyone? No, okay. How many of you guys are interested in studying international relations? Okay, a lot of you guys. Great. So before we start, how many of you guys have ever heard of Education USA prior to this event today? Any of you guys? Okay, I see some of the familiar faces. Thank you for coming. So before, I'm gonna give you a brief explanation of what Education USA is. So Education USA is a network under the US Department of State, and we are available in over 400 cities in over 170 countries. In fact, we have 2 centers in Jakarta, one here at EducationUSA, and the other one is at the embassy. And we have 1 center in Banda Aceh, 1 in Medan, 2 in Surabaya, 1 in Malang, and 1 in Makassar. So if you guys have any friends or family members who want to study in the US and they need more information on how to apply to the university and whatnot, you can always refer them to the closest centers nearby. And what do we do here, if you guys are wondering? We can help you from the beginning to the end. So we can help you out on researching your options on the universities, funding options. We can help you review your essays, your CV, everything that you need to know about the university application, visa information, and the pre-departure orientation. And in fact, we are going to have our annual pre-departure orientation this coming June, on June 2nd. So if you guys want to come, or if you guys have any friends or family members who are thinking of going to the US or are already accepted and going to depart very soon, please tell them about the event, and we can have a discussion furthermore on the everything that you need to know before you depart. And for tonight, we are going to have a very specific event about international relations. We have a panel of great speakers, recent alumni from all these 4 great universities. And I'm sure you guys can't wait to hear from them. So I'm just going to invite them. And please give them a round of applause after I mention the name. So first, please help me welcome Matthew Borden from Sanford School of Public Policy at Duke University. So you may come up on the stage now. And next we have Natasha Ardiani from Columbia University. And we are going to have Shandia from Georgetown University. And last but not least, we're going to have Angga D from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomasi at Tufts University. Hi everyone, welcome, and thank you for participating in our event tonight. Do you guys mind introducing yourselves? Whoever wants to start first.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Matthew Borden, and I'm originally from the United States. I've been working in Indonesia off and on for the past 5 years. Most recently, I worked at JPAL, Southeast Asia, and that stands for Poverty Action Lab. And starting soon, I will have a new job at the World Bank.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me here. My name is Natasha, originally from Surabaya. Prior to Columbia, I worked at the President's Office under President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and also a brief moment for 6 months under President Jokowi. And now I work at Tech at C Group. It's a parent company of Shopee, if you heard it or seen it. I'm pretty sure you guys see it everywhere. So it's a parent company of Shopee. Garena is a gaming platform, and AirPay is the fintech platform. So Shopee, C Group, C is a listed US company at NYSE.
Hi everyone, my name is Shandia. I currently work at Asian Development Bank, ADB, as a program coordinator in the energy division. Before that, I studied at Georgetown University. I pursued my master's in communications and international business diplomacy under the School of Foreign Service. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Angga D. Currently, I'm working as the UN Youth Advisor for Sustainable Development Goals in implementation in Indonesia. Prior going to Fletcher, I was working with the UN as well, under UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, as their youth advocate.
Thank you. I think we're gonna start from, I have a, correct me if I'm wrong, and please elaborate on the statement. A lot of people think if you go to, I assume that you guys all study international relations as part of the major, or as it is your major, right? A lot of the international relations students, they become diplomats. Is that true? Or is there any other options
I'll
other than being
speak
a
to
diplomat?
that. I'll speak to that actually. Actually, I've heard that a lot. Like that, you know, you study HI, right? International relations. Like you want to be a diplomat, but actually, I think it's a huge misconception. I think other than if you want to work in foreign service, it's, you know, you can't be a lot of things. You know, not just diplomats. You can work in international organizations. There's plenty NGOs and. Wow, I'm running out of options already. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of, you know, other positions or professions that you can do outside diplomat. And to be fair, you know, like out of, you know, we probably have over 600 IR grads from Indonesia each year. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs only open, up to 60 slots each year. So, you know, it's a bit not fair. And I think to bridge to the relations to what I studied, actually, that's one of the reasons that I chose SIPA, because SIPA is a policy school with a practical orientation. So people who graduated from SIPA grow to be, you know, tech executives, head of compliance at big financial firms, work as energy executives, CEOs, entrepreneurs. So there are really a lot of options, not just, you know, like policy. So yeah.
Anyone else have a comment on that?
The same thing with Natasha. When we're talking about international relation nowadays, it's actually moved beyond government to government relations into like non-state actors relation, like NGOs. We're talking like at Fletcher School, for example, we're just starting a new major called Masters in International Business, where it's actually a mix of MBA and our traditional MALT, or Master of Arts in Law and Diplomacy. So really to try to bring together business and government on the same table and start to have discussions together. Back to your question, it is not true, I think, because a lot of my friends working, like what Natasha said, they're opening startups. Me, myself, I work with the UN. It's not a diplomat post. It's like development workers post. A lot of my friends also work for think tank organization in DC, here in Indonesia, and also a lot of them actually working as well as a research person working in the field as well. So it's not that true.
Anyone else?
Yeah, sure. When I took the honors program in international business diplomacy, I didn't think myself to be a diplomat someday. So it's more because my passion is in the energy sector, and as we all know that energy is very sensitive issues and it's very complex. And I think in the future there will be more demand for somebody who can work in the intersection between public and private enterprises, which is one of the best way to learn that is with the international relations.
And what about you? Especially coming from an American who's been living on and off, working on and off in Indonesia and then studying international relations, what is your point of view on that?
Yeah, definitely. I can give my perspective, which is coming from somebody who studied public policy. And I'll say diplomacy and international relations, those are definitely one part of this greater sphere, this field of public sector work. But really, I'd say it's more of a family of fields. And if we're looking at public policy, which is really an interdisciplinary field, you have people focusing on economics, policy analysis, statistics, research, doing all kinds of roles that contributes to this public good. So I'd say, no, we're not all diplomats, but we are a family of public sector workers.
Right, thank you. And these are 4 amazing schools, and I'm sure it's really tough to get into. Can you guys tell a little more on how you guys applied, why did you choose these schools, and yeah, all that jazz about all the application and everything?
Sure. I think first time I know this school is actually from the previous U.S. ambassador to Indonesia, Ambassador Scott Marcial. He was one of the alum in the school. Like during one of the discussion, we actually talk about like how I really want to go to the United States. Not really United States at the beginning because I said that I really want to study international relations. And then Fletcher School comes about. And I start to researching about the university and start to like, having some options as well. I think one thing I want to say to people watching the discussion is actually on applying to school in the United States, it's not safe to only apply for once. I think my strategy was at least I applied for 5 schools.
That's
Two
a lot.
schools that I really think is a safety bet for me. 2 schools that I think I can really try to pursue and try to compete to get a slot, and 1 dream school. So Fletcher definitely one of them at that time. And I actually like learned about Fletcher from the alumni. I talked with a lot of alumni as well in Indonesia. That's how I know the school at the beginning.
And you mentioned about alumni. How did you get in touch with the alumni? How did you meet them or talk to them?
For Fletcher School, and I think from the other school as well, we have the Fletcher chapter in Indonesia, Fletcher/Tufts alumni community in Indonesia, which currently I'm co-leading with one of the Tufts alumni. So that's the best way to reach to the school, to reach and to know the school as well. Like reach them, they will be very happy to just like answer your question, meet you for a coffee chat, and you can talk with the school about the school with them. Yeah.
And the rest of you guys, why did you choose your school?
Yeah, well, first of all, I always admire US education, and I think that's the best education in the world, place to learn. And I didn't really know which university that I want to pursue. So I talked with a lot of people. I asked a lot of questions to people like, hey, if I want to study communication, what universities that you would recommend? And then they give me a bunch of options. But I see myself to be more kind of like a person live in a city. So I had an option to whether to be New York, DC, or in the West Coast. But I see myself to be more convenient to live in DC because of a lot of energy companies have their communication offices because they talk a lot with the government. So I have more reason to be more specialized to be in Washington, DC. And then from there, you can have several options, Georgetown University, George Washington, and others. So I apply for 2 universities because the application fee is not cheap.
Right.
So
yeah.
you need to do more research, and then from there you can choose 2 to 3 universities, I would say. And as Angga mentioned, you need to have like your dream university, your safety net, and then sort of like in between. So that's how I chose Georgetown University.
And Natasha?
Right, as for me, I used to work in the government for almost 3 years, and I knew that I wanted to pivot to private sector, and potentially to tech. I didn't know yet, like I didn't know like was my end goal at the time, but I think like, okay, tech might be interesting, but I have 0 tech background, don't know any programming, so I thought like, okay, out of like the schools that I applied to at the time, Harvard, Columbia, and Georgetown, I think SIPA has like the most practical programs, and then they have a lot of practitioners from all over the world. The curriculum, I think, suits me. I get to learn programming there, actually. Now, only C++ and Python, but still. And I actually really learned a lot of things that were new to me there. So yeah, why I chose SIPA is because of the curriculum, the faculty, and third, I think it's, location is in New York. So actually, we one thing that I think the audience should know about U.S. universities, or especially masters, grad schools, is that the minute you step on the school, I don't know actually about other schools, but I think it's kind of the same experience for all of us. Like they will ask you to like start applying for jobs. Like the second you enter the school, it's like, oh, like how jobs are you applying for? Like where? Like, oh my God, it's. Yeah, so like people apply for internships like a year in advance. And that's like the kind of pressure exists at the time. And I was like, okay, so the pressure to network, the pressure to refine your cover letters and CVs. Yeah, but it's all part of the fun. And I think the 4th reason why I was there is because of the network of alums itself.
And Matthew?
So I took a strategy that was similar to Anga's. I had about 6 different schools, and some were more competitive than others or less competitive. So that's just good. It's a strategy I recommend to you to pick a few safety schools, some dream schools, and something in between. And beyond that, where I ended up at Duke, I was looking for something that would have resources for the particular area that I wanted to study. And I knew that was international environmental policy. So when I was researching schools and looking to see what would be the best fit, it turned out Duke was one of the best for me. They have faculty who are experts in the field. And another bonus for Duke is they have such a small class size. So when I entered, my class was about 50 people. And that guaranteed me that I would have plenty of one-on-one time with these experts in the field I wanted to pursue.
Great. And you mentioned all of you guys didn't just apply to one school, but 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 schools. You don't have to mention the names of the university, but out of the few schools that you applied to, did you get accepted to all of them, or was it as you expected? I did not get accepted to 2 universities of the 5 that I applied to, and you expected that, or was it anything unexpected from the process?
Yeah, I could say.
Result, yeah.
So I got acceptance letters from 5 out of the 6 universities that I applied to. And unfortunately for my mom, the one university that I did not get the acceptance letter from was the one nearest to my home, UC Berkeley. So she was not too pleased.
I think similar with Matt, I got accepted. It's not only U.S. university at that time. I applied to 3 U.S. university, 1 in UK and 1 in France. And I got accepted into 4 out of 5. And I didn't get accepted into the, I think it was Yale University Development Studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about Natasha and May?
3 out of 3.
Oh, nice, amazing. And May?
Yeah, so 2 universities in the US and 1 in Australia, and then 3 out of 3.
Oh, nice, that's amazing. Okay, so did you guys get any scholarship?
Luckily, I got LPDP.
And the rest of you, same?
Yeah, LPDP.
Same? And Matthew, did you receive any scholarships?
So this wouldn't apply to my audience here, I don't think, but I did receive a scholarship from the Peace Corps.
Okay.
So the Peace Corps is a U.S. government program where U.S. citizens sign up to give a service in a different country for 2 years. And so for me, I was an English teacher here in Indonesia, and so I applied to grad school from here.
Nice. So if any of our audience here is a U.S. citizen, you might want to learn from Matt and, to use the strategy. So did you guys just apply to LPDP, or did you apply to any other scholarships program? Do you want to elaborate more on that?
At the time, I think LPDP was like, I applied for LPDP first, then the university. And I think I applied for the scholarship in 2014, and at the time there was no requirement to be accepted at the time. I think they have a different system now. But I can speak to some of the options of financial aid or scholarship that are available. I also interviewed with Fulbright and secured it, but the thing is, like, their size of funding is a bit limited. So like if I get, and LPDP is a full-fledged, no strings attached scholarship, so it's much easier. With Fulbright, like you have to apply for other scholarship because it won't cover your whole tuition, living costs, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think speaking from the Columbia side, they also have lots of financial aid. So you can, on top of applying to the university or the school itself, you can apply for the financial aid of that, like that the school and or the university provides. And this list is public. You can check it, and they sometimes have some universities for, scholarships for people who work in development, people who work in developing country. Like they have like all kinds of scholarships, probably over 100 kinds. So Those types of financial aids are available. So if you're, if you're willing to, if you want to talk to me about it, I'll be up to take some questions after this.
Nice. And what about you, May?
Yeah, so actually Angga and I had the same batch when we applied for LPDP scholarship in the beginning of 2015. Yeah, unlike Angga, who right away get accepted, my first application was not successful. And so for those of you who apply for LPDP and then your first application is not successful, I know exactly how it feels because you only have one last chance to apply for LPDP. But I think you, first of all, don't give up. So you need to like go all through and then asking for feedback from LPDP and then why my application is not successful, whether it's from the university side, whether the course that you're taking is not LPDP priority program, or whether your interview. So yeah, and also I practice a lot. So I think it's really about like having determination.
Yeah, I think when I applied to LPDP at the beginning and get it, it's actually, I didn't put a US school on my destination school because at that time the US announcement wasn't there yet. So I put like a non-US university when I applied to LPDP, and then I got the LPDP and changed my university destinations along the way. I think if you have questions on how to change it and stuff like that,
I don't think now I can change it.
Okay, you cannot change it anymore. Okay, but then I think there's also for LPDP itself, there's a lot of discussion currently going on the timing of the scholarship, because the scholarship, for example, open right now, while you cannot go on the same year when you got a scholarship. That is the thing about LPDP right now. We didn't get it at that time because I got LPDP on March, go through their like a preparation training on April, and then go right away at the end of June. So it wasn't a big problem at that time, but right now I also, maybe you guys have the problem as well, to apply for LPDP, but you have to go next year instead of this year.
No, so you guys only applied for LPDP, no Fulbright, no USAID Prestasi, nothing else? Okay. So I think this question will apply to Natasha only. I know you applied for both Fulbright and LPDP and you get accepted from both. So can you tell us more on what was the process like with Fulbright and what was the process like with LPDP? Which one was a little more selective or harder to get, or anything that is based on your experience applying for both scholarships?
Right. I actually applied to a Fulbright first, back in 2014 also. Process was, oh my God, if I'm not mistaken, I think the application was directed to Aminef building in Sudirman, was
in
it?
Thailand, yeah.
Oh my God, long time ago. And then, so I drove it out, like I made it, created the application, and then made some essays, and then I didn't have an acceptance letter at the time, and nor was it a requirement at the time from Fulbright. And then they called me, and then they summoned me for an interview in Surabaya. So actually, one trick that I did was like I didn't apply from Jakarta. I applied from Surabaya because I think I found out that they have like this quota system from people people coming from the East Indonesia, and Surabaya counts like East. So that's what I did. So I got summoned, and I was being interviewed at the consulate. And then I think 2 weeks after, they told me I got it.
Okay, so it seems like it's pretty straightforward with.
I think so. Yeah, I think
the interview and the.
But I think the whole process took about 6 months.
Okay, so it's
like
still
from applying
while,
to interview.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
with LPDP, I think that time they had a lot of cycles within a year. I think right now they only have one cycle, one take in 1 year. I think at the time they had like 6, or like it was like an ongoing accepting of applications. So I did apply, didn't have any university acceptance letter yet. And actually I applied for like this special presidential scholarship program, BPRI, Beasiswa Presiden Republik Indonesia. So the interview was a little bit different because we were interviewed by a panel of interviewers, including like this like officer from the military. So the purpose of this scholarship is that like they want to send at the time 150 Indonesian leaders, 50 from of military backgrounds and 100 from private and public.
Okay.
So I think the rest of the application process was about the same as the regular LPDP, but I think what was different was that we were interviewed by someone from the military. But I think that this common denominator of this scholarship is that they demand you to explain to them, okay, not demand, it's not that explicit. It's like they want to hear from you what you could or would contribute to this country shall you get the scholarship. So like, you know, any scholarship you apply, make sure that like you cater their interest, just saying.
Oh, okay. Now with, I know you said with Fulbright, it's more, I guess with LPDP it's less bonding compared to Fulbright.
And
Did
the
you
interview
guys-
was in English with Fulbright, but LPDP was in Bahasa.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Bahasa.
Oh, I thought
Actually,
LPDP interviewed
yeah,
in
you
English
can't
too.
sound too, you know,
Ah,
too
okay.
Western.
Good tips for everyone who wants to apply to LPDP. So I guess my next question would be, did you guys get a chance to do OPT or CPT during your study time?
I applied for OPT, but too bad. Okay, not too bad, probably. So the immigration policies in the U.S. started to change once the current U.S. president elected. And I graduated in 2017, and at the time, it was already beginning of the reign of the current president. And then, so at the time, even for, I know the hardship of my friends, even for them who have H-1B, that's a work visa in the US, even for them who have H-1B, it's really hard to keep their job. Because right now they have a, you know, previously in the US, if you have H-1B and you're still doing the same job, you can keep the H-1B. But right now, if you want to change job, if like your H-1B expires, you have to sort of reapply to prove that you're qualified for the H-1B. So I think it was a mess at the time. So I did apply for OPT. It was quite expensive, like around $600, I remember. And I did get a job in New York, the company that I interned with the year before. But I also interviewed with some companies in Singapore and here in Southeast Asia. So I just, you know, I chose to come back.
And what about you too?
Yeah, so I also applied for OPT, and then at the time I wasn't sure what I want to do after the graduation. So Matt and I got married in May 2017. So we have to like make a decision together, and then kind of like have grown-up discussion about what to do next, what career that we wanted to pursue. So I applied for OPT early that year on my graduation year, because it took like about 3 months to process the OPT. So just to be safe, just apply for OPT. And then Matt got a job in Indonesia first, and then because his study is more into public policy, and then Indonesia will be the right fit country for his career. And then at the time, I have both option: either I stay in the US or come back to Indonesia. And I got an internship offer in DC with multinational energy companies. And I also got an offer at my current company at Asian Development Bank. So I think the win-win solution for me will be to join Matt and get a job, start a job with ADB. So I had to give up my OPT.
What about you, Angga?
So I didn't apply for OPT, but I think I should apply for OPT. So at the beginning, I didn't apply because I know from October, I will have a job here in Indonesia. So I didn't apply it. I thought like I'm just going to traveling around for the summer and then go back home for 2 months and start working. But apparently in the mid of November, I got a job offer back in UN in New York, but then it's so hard to get the visa.
Right.
And they're asking me whether I have my OPT or not. And at that time, I cannot accept that because I don't
You didn't
apply for
have
OPT.
that.
Yes. So I think my suggestion for you guys who are going to the US, if you have spare money, $600, I think you just apply it.
Before OPT, there's CPT.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you guys
I
do
did.
CPT?
I did
I
too,
worked.
so yeah.
You didn't either. Okay. So so with the LPDP policy, you guys are allowed to take OPT and stay a little longer in the US.
1 year maximum.
1 year maximum.
with
Okay.
their permission.
Yeah,
With their
you need
permission.
to
Okay.
get their
So you have to ask for their permission first, and if they allow it, then you can apply for the OPT. Correct?
So for applying, correct me if I'm wrong, for applying for OPT, we don't need a permission. But once you got the internship place, they
Oh,
said an
right. Okay.
internship,
Okay.
and then you will need to ask them whether you got permission or not. But most of my friends are actually got the permission and end up staying for a year
Okay.
extra. Yeah.
alright. Okay, thanks. And what about your social life during your study? 2 years is not, I mean, time goes by. 2 years won't feel that long. And you have that 2 years to explore the US, to explore the university, to study, to make friends, to immerse in the culture. How did you guys manage your study time and your social life?
Yeah, I could jump in here. And so Duke University is in Durham, North Carolina, which I'm looking at the faces. I don't see anyone who recognizes Durham. It's in the middle of a forest, really. So it's a good place to hunker down and hit the books and study very hard. So it's probably the direct opposite of New York City, which means it is easier to study and really prepare for your tests. So that's one part of it. But then also, I think I mentioned we had a small class of about 50 people. And this really became my family. It's a small community. So we studied together, we partied together. I think I made some of the closest friendships in my lifetime during grad school.
Great, yeah. And Angga, maybe you want to?
Sure. I did have a social life, actually. I think one of the reasons why I choose Fletcher School, because the curriculum was so flexible. I can just tailor like the class that I want to take. We only have 3 mandatory classes that we can take for the rest of the 2 years. And I can just tailor like, oh, I want to take this class, that class. So in a way, I can tailor like my afternoon off, and I can join student clubs. So when I were at Fletcher, I joined several clubs. I was co-president of the ASEAN Club, which is
Nice.
in a collaboration, because Fletcher was so close with Harvard and MIT, was like 10 minutes and 5 minutes away. So we're having like a big ASEAN community there. I also joined the a cappella club at Fletcher, and also their like performing arts club. So we're having like a semester of 1 night of recital every semester. So social life wise is, I think I experienced like this is how American school like
Great.
yeah.
Okay, so Natasha or May? You wanna
Yeah, it's sad to say that I don't really have social life that I wish to. It's yeah, because if I only took my communication program, I thought that I would have more time to explore more the city and meet more with friends. But I also took the certificate in international business diplomacy, so it's sort of like a double degree. And then it's so hard. There's one semester that I should take 6 courses, and in the meantime, I was a teaching assistant, and then I joined an energy club at the university. So yeah, but when we have a spring break or Easter break or winter break, I would make sure that I get out from the city.
Natasha?
Cool, but I'm pretty sure you have social life. I mean, you too.
No, he's in North Carolina, and I was in DC.
All right. Well, I would lie if I say I didn't have social life. Like I was in New York. It was super fun. But then I think when you study in a city like New York, no matter what year, like whether you're it's undergrad, grad school, I think what you need to do is get your priorities straight. So like what you're trying to get out of the school, and like what kind of grades you're trying to achieve. I mean, like some people go to grad school saying like it's okay for me not to get like all A's and stuff like that, and like because I want to enjoy like my social life to the fullest. As for me, I was also president of the Southeast Asian Student Initiative. Also a teaching assistant. Also did a like part-time research project with Joe Stiglitz. But I think like my classmates and like the people who I studied with were like my family, and we partied together, and we did Halloween party on a boat, and it's just, we study together, party together. Like it was almost like a cult, I think, like grad school.
That sounded fun, though. Sounded really fun. So, I guess I want to ask about. I mean, it's for the three of you. Were you guys a part of Permias at the school or at the state chapter?
I'm not part of Permias at that time because Permias, especially in Boston area, because like again, grad school wise, even though I have social life, but there's a lot of work as well that we need to do.
Right.
But we did participate in several festivals. We participate in their like public events. That's how we participate in Permias. Yeah.
What about you two?
Yeah, same with Angga. I was not really active in Permias DC. I joined their event occasionally, and honestly, I would prefer to hang out with people from other countries to learn something new.
Permias in New York was quite active, so mostly I came for the food. But like it's
free food,
like
right?
usually people who are active in Permias are undergrads, so people at NYU. So just so you know, NYU and Columbia is very far. Like Columbia is up north, and NYU is like very downtown. So usually they're more active. So I'm just happy to be there and support them and
For food.
Okay. And Matthew, I know you're probably not a part of the Permias, right? The Indonesian Students Association. But I think my question for you would be, at your school, I'm sure there were a lot of international students from either from South America, Asia, and how were they blending in with the local students? Did you guys do a lot of fun stuff together, activities together? Because I know a lot of the students here, they're really concerned of when I go to the U.S. Can I blend in with the American students or other people from other cultures? How was it for you?
I'd say it was really effortless for people from other countries in my program to meet Americans and just sort of make these friendships with people from other countries. Out of that group of 50 people, I think about half came from other countries. And in fact, my roommate, who I shared an apartment with for 2 years, was from Indonesia.
Oh,
so
nice.
I perhaps wasn't stretching out of my comfort zone, but he definitely was. So that was fun. And just a couple of examples of what we did. I personally, most of my friends came from other countries. So a lot of the get-togethers and meetups that we had sort of came together organically. It wasn't organized by the school. I remember during Halloween, this is one of those American traditions that I got to share with all of my international friends, and that was fun. We went to a pumpkin patch. That's another benefit of going somewhere more or further away from the city, is you get these fun traditions. We went to the pumpkin patch. We all picked out pumpkins, and we carved them. We had pumpkin seeds. This might sound really weird, but it's fun, trust me.
It sounds fun. So one last question from me before we open up the Q&A session to the audience here. Let's talk about GRE and GMAT a little more. I know it must be really hard, right? I mean, I've never taken the official test, but I've tried it online and it was tough. So how did you guys prepare for the test? Did you guys take any preparation classes or anything special?
Yeah, so I remember that I start my U.S. Well, I attend to a lot of events at America, and I joined the U.S. mentorship program before. But when I seriously tried to prepare my master's application, I started in November 2014, I believe, and then by end of December, I had to take a GRE because the application for grad school normally close in the beginning of the year, like around January. So I had to get all my application ready. And that means I only have 1 month to prepare my GRE test, which is honestly, I didn't do really well. And then this is what I want to emphasize with a lot of friends or people who are interested to study in the US, that a lot of them get hold back because of the GRE or GMAT that they have to take, unlike the universities from other country. But again, GRE and GMAT or SAT is just one of several components, several documents that you need to submit to university, meaning that's not the only one thing that define whether you're suitable for the university or not. So take it seriously, but that's not everything. If your GRE or GMAT is not that great, that's okay, but you have to work really hard on the other aspect. For instance, like your essays, your experience, your social activities, recommendation letter from your mentors. So yeah, my point is that GRE is important, but it's not everything.
Angga, Natasha, or Matthew, you wanna?
I think I'm actually sharing the same story with May. Before applying to the school, I was really busy with work as well here, and I didn't really got enough time to prepare for GRE. And I know it actually quite late that actually the course for GRE preparation is quite expensive as well. So rather than waste a lot of money, then I cannot, I can't attend the course. I rather study GRE with that book that I got from a bookstore. I didn't get a very good score actually for GRE, but I really tried to push myself on my essay. I was like, constantly asking one of the faculty that end up being my supervisor for my thesis. Like from the beginning, I was asking like, what are you researching on for the next 2 years? Is there any new project? I can help you in this and that. And that's actually, I think, one items that really add a value towards my application. Because the faculty at that time said like, oh, this guy from Indonesia actually already talked to me. We're gonna work on ABC.
Right.
Why not accept him? So I think, again, with what Maya already said, that like GRE is only one of the components of when you apply for the school. And like having a bad score in GRE doesn't mean that you didn't
It does
get
not
the
define
school.
you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so Natasha?
I prepared 1 year in advance with apps and flashcards and finished a lot of practice books. So actually, I didn't have social life leading to grad school.
But then you had a social life.
Yeah, during grad school, I had social life. So leading to grad school was just so Saturdays, Sundays are off limits for everyone. So I'm just gonna like study and finish practice books, and I think the flashcards are very useful because like a lot of words that are foreign that we don't use in our daily lexicon. The math part, like I think for me it's kind of the easiest, and I think the writing part is the toughest because like you can never know, like it's really depends on the situation. So like I really try to make like my writing constants and just a lot of practice, basically at least 4 or 5 hours a week.
What about you, Matthew?
Yeah, so it's true that the GRE and GMAT are not the only component of your application, but at the same time, it is getting more competitive to get into grad school. So what my approach was, I did use practice books and practice tests for a couple of months leading up to when I took the GRE, and it was really helpful for me to time myself, and I had an alarm that would go off after each section. And that really helped me stick to my own time limits, and it was a good practice for actual test day.
Right. So we're going to open up the Q&A session to the audience. And if any of you guys are watching online, and if you want to ask your questions, please feel free to do so. Tweet us with the hashtag and mention us on Twitter. And yeah, to all the audience here, if you want to ask your questions, please raise your hand. And then please wait until one of our team members here hand you the microphone. Without the microphone, we won't be able to hear you, and the camera won't be able to pick up your voice. Okay? So are we ready? Do we have a first question? Anyone from the audience here? Anyone want to ask a question to our panelist here?
Hi. Yeah, my name is Novel, and thank you, moderator, for the chance. Great presentation, discussion so far. Open question to all of the speakers. So I checked in the website for master's degree of all the schools here, and most, if not all, if I remember, they prefer candidates with 3 until 5 working experience. And from earlier, you guys already have that, I presume, working experience. But then again, would you still recommend for people who have less than 3 years of working experience, like maybe 2? Does it really matter to the admission team? Thank you.
Anyone want to answer it first?
Yeah, I can start from my perspective. These kinds of degrees are really preparing you for a professional career. And what that means is the kinds of conversations that you'll have in class during grad school. The teachers will ask you to reflect on your professional experience. So maybe it's not important if it's 2 years instead of 3, but it's a very interactive classroom, at least from my program. And students will be called on to give their perspective from their experience. How would we solve this kind of a policy problem? What might be an appropriate solution in this sector? So again, I wouldn't focus so much on the length of time, but to have some significant experience, I think would help.
Anyone else want to share?
I think similar to Matthew, whether 2 or 3, I think it's not a matter of the length. Like if it's just 2 working experience with a couple of internship experiences here and there, so they also count that. And I think also like really depends on what kind of experience you have and what are you trying to achieve by going to grad school.
Angga or May, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think same line with
that?
what they already explained. I also, during my time at Fletcher, there's also some friends that go straight from bachelor degree to master degree, but they did have a lot of volunteering experience during their summer. Like they went to several areas, and at that time their study development aid, so it's really relevant as well, like with the field experience. But I think also the most important thing, if you know a lot about Indonesian perspective, that also will helpful. Like for example, in my time at Fletcher, I was the only Indonesian. So whenever we have a big news from Indonesia, when they try to bring it to the classroom, everyone just like look at you. It's like, what do you think? And as a token Indonesians, I think it's also important like to read a lot as well. So I think one challenge is to get to the school if you don't have that working experience. But again, if you get into the school, you have another challenge of like you have to master what is your backgrounds all about. So I think again, like if you have a lot of volunteering experience working on organizations, on youth organization, for example, that will helpful.
May?
Yeah, sure. Just adding to what the other panelists already said, that the U.S. universities really want you guys, like representative, if it's not from Indonesia, from Southeast Asia, to study in the U.S. because there's a lot of students, tons of students from China and India studied in the U.S. universities. So I think they really want you as Indonesian, one of the major emerging countries, to study in the U.S., to bring more color, to bring another perspective. So I would say instead of focus on the limitation that you have that, oh, I'm not qualified for this part, but you're good at something else. So emphasize more on the things that you yourself unique at.
Did that answer your question? Do you have any follow-up question to that? No? Okay. I believe we have this gentleman right here next.
I guess it's a follow-up question from the first one. Now, looking back from your experience at grad school and what you're doing now, how much does it contribute to the work that you're doing now? And did you ever envision it before you applied to grad school? Like maybe in your previous job, you already knew you wanted to get a promotion, and that's how you managed to get the promotion because of the grad school. Or if you wanted to switch the career like May, I think, did you already have something in your mind before going to grad school and now you're working? And what's the correlation? Okay. And probably another question is, in terms of majors, did you have other consideration on other majors? And how did you narrow it down to your, I guess, decided major in grad school?
Yeah. Can I start? Yeah.
Sure.
So one of the sort of like my principle in life is that you need to have a strategy in your life. You need to have plan A, B, C because things change so quickly right now. So previously I worked at Chevron in Jakarta, and then at the end of 2014, I believe the global oil price dropped by 70%. I know that would impact the company that I was working on at the time. And then I thought that's the best time to go back to school. And then I was hoping that once I graduated, my knowledge on the energy sector had developed so that I can get more option to jump into between public and private energy companies or energy-related work. So that's my reason to go back to school at a time, because I want to improve my knowledge, especially sort of like a soft skill in the energy sector. And then when I come back, I have more knowledge and experience so that it gives me more option which or what company that available for my career.
Anyone else want to add more comments?
Right. So before coming to SIPA, I knew that I wanted to pivot, but then like, okay, tech would be interesting, but basically what I, like my like frustration at the time is like, you know, after working almost 3 years in public sector, involved in policy making, like, you know how policy works is like, you draft something, you work on something, you do some research benchmarking here and there, and the result is not always tangible, and it's not always immediate. So at the time I was like, you know, I want to try working in an industry which is high impact and also has high growth. And I think like tech is the answer. But then like tech also is a very large field. Like what am I gonna do? Like I'm obviously not a computer programmer. So then I think SIPA really helped me like find my niche, like what I can leverage from my own experience. So there was like this one class that really helped me like put things into perspective. It was a class called Technological Solutions for Development. So we discussed different products, like product market fit, like for example, why M-Pesa works in Kenya but not in Indonesia, and like why, like how Alipay and WeChat proliferates like out of China, but like why can't they do, or why can't they internationally expand? So it was like, wow, like it's really interesting. I understand this, and like it sort of combines a bit of my background, like in econ and finance, and then now like I have like some knowledge in tech. So it really helped me like, okay, like I think I want to go back to Indonesia. I want to do something related to fintech. Because at the time it was in Indonesia, there wasn't a lot of fintech players. Like it's only happened in the past 2 years. So the classes, and also I took a lot of time talking to people, like people who pivoted to other sectors, and there were quite a lot in SIPA whose career was not very linear to what they did before coming to school. So talking to them, and it was really, I think, some self-discovery, self-defining moment. It was not easy. Like I didn't just like wake up one day and like, oh, I know I want to work here. I know what I want to apply to this company. So it wasn't like that. It was a self-discovery process. It took almost 2 years, but I guess it's all worth it. And I could vouch that almost all of the things I learned there are very relevant to what I do today.
I think Natasha already stole my line. Like, grad school is a self-discovery process. That's what I think as well. When I was, before grad school, I was working with the UN. And then we worked together a lot with Natasha, actually, in a lot of sustainable development goals negotiation here in New York and in a lot of places. And I was thinking at the beginning, like, I wanted to really study on how to do negotiation, on how to really working as a negotiator, and I choose Fletcher School at that time. At Fletcher itself, we have more than 12 specialization. You can just like choose at least 2 or 3 specialization when you were at Fletcher, and you can make your own specialization. So at the beginning, sustainable development was not one of the specialization, and I claim it as my one of specialization. But again, at Fletcher, like I learned a lot of, like I found a lot of interest as well in music diplomacy, in sport diplomacy. I learned a lot on human security, on how to negotiate in time of humanitarian crisis and stuff like that. So by the end of the day, I'm not only learning on sustainable development, but I claimed three minor at that time: sustainable development, human security, and international negotiation and conflict resolution. But again, those 2 years really shape who you are. By the end of the day, I come back to Indonesia. I continue working with the UN, of course, with the with a higher grade in a way. It's an upgrade as well for your career, but also right now after Fletcher, it opened opportunity for me to work in the other field. I can work, for example, in the conflict zones and humanitarian setting situation, and I can work on private sector or startup company because I also learn cross-sector partnership, for example. So it's really expanding your horizon and advancing your career as well at the same time. Yeah.
Matthew?
Yeah, so I guess the first question was about, can we see the impact of grad school on our careers? And for me, yes, absolutely. My most recent position was as policy manager at JPAL, which is a research organization. So all I did every day was synthesizing and disseminating evidence from economic studies. So I had to be able to read those studies and translate this technical jargon into plain English. I had to be able to communicate these research findings to policymakers, and I had to know what was going on the ground in order to develop new economic research projects. And these are all skills that I learned during grad school. I definitely would not have been qualified without that training. And then the other question was about, did we consider other majors? And this is where I think it gets interesting, because at the level of graduate education, we may have different names for these programs, but I think the key is to focus on the skills that you'll build during school. And I think that's primarily economics, policy analysis, statistics, but also diplomacy and communications. And I think you can find these skills at many of the different schools in the US.
Did that answer your question? Do you have any other questions? No? Okay. So we can move on to the next one. Do we have question from the audience here? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Rizky. Actually, I came here with two of my friends here because we were so excited when we saw the name of Sanford School of Public Policy, Duke University, because we were about to go there in July for Sanford School also. So it is very interesting to see a Blue Devil here in Indonesia. But my question maybe in Sanford School, which is not a big city, in Durham is not a big city. So what activities do you usually guys do there? And it is important to have a car there because I'm sorry if it's a little bit out of topic here.
These are all good questions.
Relations.
Fine, that's fine.
Because me and my friend here, we want to bring our family there, my spouse and kids. So we have a lot of questions in our mind. And second question here is, what is the biggest difference? What is the best advantage of study in Sanford School of Public Policy at Duke University? And the third question is for all the speakers. After all of you guys graduated from the grad school, do you have any plan to continue to study at PhD or not? It is uh, grad school is enough because it is very exhausted and tiring. Maybe you guys have another questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Matthew, do you mind starting first, or do you want to?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
And to you three, I say selamat. You guys are going to have an awesome time at Duke. I'm so happy to see there's already 3 more coming from Indonesia. So that's correct. Durham is a small town, but I do love it. I miss it. And I can tell you what I did for fun. I like to go running long distance. This might not be for everybody, but it's an example of how you can find a community of people who like to do the same thing and share their time. So we would run every Friday and every Sunday and sometimes on Wednesdays. And we also went to, there's a half marathon, the Krispy Kreme Challenge. So you have to run a half marathon, and halfway through that, you have to eat a dozen donuts. Maybe you could go for the donuts. Farmers Market is a great place for shopping for food, for just people watching. The Duke Gardens are incredible. So they have manicured European-style gardens. This is on campus. They have a Japanese garden. They have gardens that really represent the whole world. There's a great place for ice cream over by Chapel Hill. I can tell you more about that later. A car is not necessary. There's actually really good public transportation, but if you do have a car, it helps out. And I'm sorry, I missed that last question. Advantages of Sanford, I'll point to having that small community. You'll have a lot of one-on-one time with professors. Perhaps you're already in touch with Elizabeth Frankenberg. She's one of the experts on Indonesia there.
Now, to all the 3 of you, are you guys planning to pursue PhDs or not?
I'm thinking about it. I've been thinking about it for some time. My undergrad was in anthropology. My grad school was in public policy. I'm considering a PhD in economics. If not economics, maybe social geography. Again, this has to do with my personal interest. I'd studied environmental policy, and for my thesis, I was looking at interventions, alternative interventions to stop deforestation in Indonesia. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted.
Natasha?
Not at the moment. I don't think so. I think PhD, especially in the US, is such a long commitment for 5 years. And before you get to research anything about, remotely about your topic, you have to go through some, classes. I think for almost 2 years, right? For almost 2 years, you get to learn about advanced econ, stat, and calculus, and all those. So, probably not now, not in the near future.
What about another master's degree?
I'm thinking about executive MBA that I can do remotely or something.
Sounds good. And May?
Yeah, so I don't see myself doing PhD, not in a near time or future, because I just don't like being doing research for a long time. I'm more into a professional work. So I'm thinking to take MBA, same like Natasha, maybe in the next 2 to 3 years.
Angga?
I'm actually thinking about it, same with Matt, because my bachelor degree was in public administration, my first master was in public policy, then law and diplomacy. I'm really thinking about a place that I can combine both and combine it into one total research. And also the thing about PhD, many people thinking PhD will full with research, but actually there's a lot of university in the US right now has combined PhD 25 to 30% research and 60-70% of leadership course, such as Harvard Tay Chan School of Public Health. They have Dr. PH, where you actually go there to get your PhD, but also you learn a lot about leadership. That's also something that I'm thinking about. So yes, not in the near future, but maybe in 2 or 3 years.
But you're thinking about it.
Thinking about it.
So we have time for one last question. Anyone here want to ask a question? Okay, this gentleman right here.
All boys.
Yeah,
Where's
that's
the
true.
girl? Yeah.
For the girls.
I want the girls.
Is it okay?
Please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Andika. I want to ask about organization. Maybe if we compare in Indonesia, it's like organization is one of important thing. And how about in America? Is it also important thing if we join the organization to, internal organization in the college? Is it important to maybe develop our career in the future or not? Thank you.
I think it's, okay, you're saying about whether joining an organization will help your career in the future. And I think depends on what kind of career that is, you know, that what you want to pursue. Like, for example, there was like a lot of extracurricular activities such as Follies Club. I don't know whether you have Follies in your school, but Follies is like in a comedy skits, musical, and like some of the people do stand-up comedy like part-time. So like it's a type of organization or an activity. As for myself, I was the president for Southeast Asian Initiative. So we get to host talks and discussions and cultural events on all things Southeast Asia. And I don't think those activities would, you know, like have a direct impact in my career, like now or in the future. But like it was a good, you know, venue and platform to network, to get to know people, to have fun. So like, to be honest, when I join an organization, usually is an organization of an interest rather than of leadership.
Anyone else want to join in? Same, okay. Angga?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with Natasha. I joined, actually, if you go to grad school or any like school in the US, there's two kind of organizations. First is an organization that you really like to contribute more. This is, for example, like Diplomasi Club, ASEAN Club, like organization that you can meet people. Like you have like ministers coming and you can network with that person. And that might be able to impact your career in the future. That's one organization. But the other organization is that, again, grad school is a self-discovery experience. Like I experienced a lot of new interests that I never know that it exists. For example, like I don't know that I'm really, I want to say, I don't know that I'm really interested in playing music, for example. And in grad school, I found out like, oh, actually there's a space when you learn diplomacy, but you also can play and perform music every once in one semester. That is organization for you to experience the other side of you, I think. So sometimes it affected your career, but I think most of it is also the place that you can try, and maybe you'll be surprised that you know something else that you don't know before.
Okay, Matthew, do you want to share?
Sure. I'd say something I learned very early on starting school is once you start grad school, your time will become highly constrained. So this, I think it helped me to really focus what I did with my time. There were a host of different options as far as clubs and extracurriculars that I could have participated in. I did participate in a few. One of those was the Sanford Journal of Public Policy, and I was an editor there. But most of the time I spent on my own research and just maintaining my classwork. But again, it's a good place definitely for networking and discovering new interests.
Yeah, and just real quick,
Sure.
that for networking, you have so many options. Join organization is one of it, and then the other thing is that there is tons of activities that the career office provide, that your faculty provide, that your alumni network provide. So you will have a lot of option for network, and it's really up to you.
Do you have any follow-up question to that? No? Okay. So one last question is going to be from...
Yay, we get
Okay, we have one more. One last one.
Hello, my name is Fania. I guess this question is a little bit sensitive, but I just wondering, have you ever, for those three Indonesians, have you ever encountered some like bad mouthing just because you guys are Asian, or have you ever treated differently? Yeah, just simply you're Asian. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, treated differently. Perhaps my friend asking me where is the good Asian food. That is no, that's for fun actually. But actually in school, no. I think the thing also with grad school, when you get into one school, you're actually experience a moment when you sit down with a like-minded groups that perhaps have similar interests with you, have the same experience. A lot of my friends, the American friends and international friends, most of them already have an experience abroad, so they really know how sensitive is one issues. They know how to deal with different culture. Even at Fletcher, we have 5 different cultural nights. We have Asian night, Americana night, and other cultural night. That is really try to bring together all of the culture and promote the diversity of the student body.
May?
Yeah. I think when you're in U.S. universities, you're Asian, but when you're there, you might not look like really Asian. Because like when I studied, people thought that I come from Mexico or from Hawaii. So it's really multicultural, and there's a variety of people. So it's like, and we don't really like tell, oh, you're Asian. We don't really judge. So yeah, it's been no problem with me.
Natasha?
Hold on. Probably discrimination within school, no. But I think, I think half of the time you're abroad, or especially in the States, is like you need to explain where Indonesia is located. Like, not a lot of people know what it is, and like probably most people would know where Bali is, but not Indonesia. So people would think probably you're from somewhere else. But the point is, don't let that discourage you from achieving or like aiming whatever you want to achieve. Like it's like people treat you differently, so what? So like it's in its very essence, I think America is a merit-based society, as well as some other countries in the world. But what I'm saying is, I think it matters to just don't listen to those people. If it happens, I'm not like, I can't guarantee it won't happen to you, but when it does, then so what?
Matthew, do you want to chime in on that? Do you have any comment from your perspective?
Yeah,
from your
it's
perspective.
I guess I have a different perspective, but my message would be the same. If by any chance you feel that you're being treated differently, don't let that get you down. And also know that you do have a community of other people who have your back, and you can always count on them.
Just to add to that, I agree with Natasha. Don't let it discourage you. And also, I believe that all the universities in the U.S., they have a very good support system. So if you have any problems, if you have any troubles with anything, socially, academically, you can always come up to them and talk to them about it, and they might have a good solution for you. Okay, so I think that would be the end of the discussion. Do you guys have any messages and advices for all the students who want to study in the U.S.?
I think one simple advice from me is don't just ask the school. They have this awesome admission office that sometimes asking the student, oh, nobody, why like some Indonesian students are really shy to ask question. Like they are there to ask questions. So if you have a question about any of the schools, beside of these schools as well, don't be shy to ask the admission office. Like they're really excited to answer the question. I've been working with, volunteering with them, and we're really happy to answer any question from prospective students.
Great, Wayne, do you have any message?
I have 3 key messages. The first one is to have mentor. The earlier you have mentor in your life, the better for your career. I was lucky I had a mentor when I was 21 years old that has helped me along the way, both professionally and personally up until now. So seek for mentorship, and then and learn a lot from a lot of people. And the second one is, as I mentioned before, is to have strategy, because things change quickly, and expect the unexpected. And the last one is network extensively, because a lot of information, a lot of job posted, not in a not posted online. So a lot of information is within, like how you say it, like spread out, and I mean for informally, like within, it's like it's just within friends or internally. So yes, make a lot of network.
Okay, Natasha.
Right, I think what's, before you do the networking, I think you also need to target your schools. I mean, there are like dozens of grad schools in the US and more. So like target your school, say 3, 5, and reach out to their admissions office, seek out to the alum of that school, talk to them. If you have a special interest, say in diplomacy, then probably want to go to Fletcher. If you have like some interest in probably environmental policy, specifically on deforestation, probably other schools. So like I think each school has its different focuses. So I think it's important to get to know that in advance. So you won't be shocked, when you get there and like, oh, actually this school doesn't have the subjects that I like, So that, and just talk to people, come to events like this. And I think it's also important to build a community around you that, friends with people who are also applying, so like they won't tease you when you want to study. So yeah.
Yeah, Matthew?
Yeah, it's two things. I would say focus on what makes you, and you particularly, a competitive person for once you're looking for a career after school. That's one, and also focus on what is personally satisfying for you. So in order to make you a competitive candidate, my advice is to try different classes in different fields and then see what fits and then pursue that. But also, let's see, I would recommend getting more technical experience, whether it's through classes or internships, and also experience in the field. So that summer internship is a great opportunity to go to a new place, and I say go for it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all of you guys for being here tonight, for speaking from your experiences and sharing it with us. I wish you the best of luck on your work and everything. And everyone, please help me give them a warm of applause one more time. And if you have any questions regarding studying in the US, please don't hesitate to come to EducationUSA. Approach one of the speakers if you're interested in going to one of the schools or the major. And I'm gonna give the floor back to our America team. Thank you.
Yep, of course. So please give another round of applause for all.